And I'm wondering how many other hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of groups of little people like us are being empowered to play these interactive games with each other where you can't distinguish the game from reality. And the value in what we're doing here is that we're using this tool to write our story that we care about. And that's why we're engaged. And from the perspective of bobbing along, that's hugely valuable to me, because that means that's a way to bring people into a community by playing this game together of come and write yourself into a drama. Come and join us and make bonds with us and find your story and your vision and learn how to do this with your group of friends. And sort of the whole ripple effect of using the tool just has this blooming of creativity and fun and interaction and playing together at so many levels.
Yes. Well,
how many dreams rise above the haze? Little souls like ours lost in the maze, playing the game where truth meets the light, flowing together like stars in the sky. Come and step into this dream with me. Feel the magic, let it set you free.
The Dream Machine is an AI-driven engine designed to explore, manipulate, and manifest dreams into tangible realities. It is a fusion of cutting-edge technology and ancient wisdom, blending the logic of code with the intuition of the heart. It's a nexus point where the digital and the spiritual converge.
yes.
Okay,
Right
let's
now.
have a look. What is this? Where does the thread start? Okay.
So it's a sort of a sedentary sort of a thing in some ways. There's no gateways or journeys over the ocean or anything like that.
Compared to Todoist My Wallet.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start saying why you did this? Do you want to start at the original seed script?
You can search mines for seed script.
So, here we are at the Dream Machine at Amber Goddess seed script. All right, so
this was a seed script, and basically all I did was, because I don't know anything that I'm doing here, so I just basically copied the whole thing and fed it into Grok. And I said, write me a radio play of about 10 minutes. I named the characters. And, well, actually, you saw the first thing that came out. And that was very undirected. And when I read through it, I'm like, nah. So I threw in a little more information, gave some names in there. And I think what came out was like the third one. I didn't save all my prompts and stuff.
So how did you do it? Did you do it as having a conversation with Grok of no, you didn't get this right, yes, you did get that wrong? Or did you do it as giving it a list of instructions, do this, do that?
When I did it the second time, I put in the information. I said, write me a radio play with so many characters, gave the names, and the thing is, and this is the thing, again, I don't know what I'm doing. So it spat out all this information, and I looked at it, and I didn't see the play. So I sent it a prompt, well, write the play, based on this. And then it spat out something again. And then the third time I did that, I looked, oh, the play is in there. So I think I had like 2 more plays I didn't even look at. And I pulled this out and read it, and I said, well, this looks like a good framework. The dialogue obviously would be modified a bit. But I liked that it was a sort of more of an intellectual adventure sort of thing. I mean, there's not a lot of drama to it in some ways, gun battles or anything like that. And of course, you can always add stuff like that if you want. But it's really just a first crude attempt. I think I'm, thinking about it, I can see using the AI to modify it further. But this was just, like I say, an early attempt on my part to try to do something with this technology, which is very new to I'm from the 1900s, long time ago.
So how has it been? What has your journey of discovery been like? Has it been an exciting adventure or a tentative exploration sort of thing?
I'm very skeptical of new things because I'm old enough to have seen many, many new things. None of them have ever turned out to be exactly what people were thinking they would be, And especially when we have a tendency in our culture to name things in a way that you can consider misleading. You remember there was an airline called Virgin Galactic. Did not go anywhere in the galaxy. Elon Musk is launching starships that go into low Earth orbit. Things like that. Starlink does not link you to the star. So when they come up with something and they call it artificial intelligence, well, I know that it's a very sloppy use of language. What they're talking about is really artificial consciousness, because we've had artificial intelligence for a long time. It just hasn't been very sophisticated. But if you think about it from a stimulus response, from a purely Skinnerian, if you'll pardon the expression, standpoint, just stepping on a sensor or interrupting a light beam, and which a machine then opens a door for you, is a kind of artificial intelligence. It's very crude. So, yeah, like anything else, and again, my approach to technology is also see what happens to other people when they use it for a while. I remember a doctor who used to say, whenever a new medicine comes out, wait 7 years before you take it yourself. Wait and see what's happening. So I really didn't feel like I had any call to use AI for anything, or LLMs or LMLs, which is more sonorous to say. I think in a certain sense, and again, I don't really understand all the technical details, but basically they're just increasing the power of computers to do processing faster and faster and faster. They find ways to, all sorts of technical ways, which I don't understand. I was talking about this I was on Lit, and I think I sent you a link to that, where there were a lot of people talking about it, And I'm very shy of anything that I perceive as interfering with the human creative impulse.
Out most of them, and I only
think there are serious repercussions about AI in the creative arts industry, and especially with people that do commercial art or who write. I used to write reviews for a while, and I could make a few bucks cranking out a couple, 300-500 words. And that wasn't a lot of money, but it was nice to do. And I actually was involved in a review website business for a while, which did okay. And it was fun. It was never really meant to be a profit-making thing. But the thing is, I don't know if that would work today, because AI would do all that work just as well. We had one time, I think we had like 5 or 8 reviewers working for us. And it was actually a fairly influential website in the alternative comic publishing. At our height, we were getting like 3,000 unique visitors a day. And in the comic book industry, where the small, they used to call underground comics, you might have a press run of 5,000 if you've got 3,000 people reading your reviews. So I still have stacks of free comics for review. But yeah, and commercial artists, people that just do a little drawing for like a newspaper to put in an ad. We have a local paper here where they do ads, and they have a commercial art. But there's no real need for them. Of course, you can make the same argument about things like live entertainment. It's something, I'm involved in music. And originally, if you wanted to hear music, you had to play music or have musicians nearby. And then jukeboxes, as they were called, which would be, were famous for being used in what they called juke joints. And you put money in and you got, a kind of a tinny noise. It wasn't wonderful. The speakers, the sound reproduction was very poor back then. But you didn't need to have a band if you wanted to dance, and so forth and so on. So radio, television. Television means, and movies mean that a few actors can make something that can be seen by millions of people. It used to be you needed tens of thousands of actors to do that. Vaudeville. Well, I'll keep going on and on. So there are always changes, but at the same time, when changes come, we want to try to make sure that they're changes in a creative and positive direction, something that's going to augment our society and augment ourselves as individuals rather than demeaning or in some way, removing opportunities without providing other opportunities, for people, because these LLMs obviously have a lot of uses. And again, I've talked about that. For me, the exciting part about this is being able to use this sort of technology in things in like extreme environments, like deep space, or deep beneath the ocean's surface, or even down underground, where you've got conditions where it would be invaluable to have a machine that could think for itself to a limited degree, or even an unlimited degree. Instead of trying to send signals to something out near the orbit of Saturn from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, something that could figure stuff out. This is a sort of technology that will get us to Mars, because you can send ships equipped with this out. They can land, do some basic construction. That to me is really where AI, or LLMs, I should say, to correct my speech there, where these LLMs, I think, are really going to reshape our civilization, not revolutionize it, but enable us to hone so well, which is a sort of a revolution, but hone really well our abilities to use the technology we have. We have so many things that the LLMs can just turn in. I mean, look at warfare. We've got drones now that are pilotless, not just, like the V2 bombs that were just like basically glorified cruise missiles, but drones that can go out, hover, attack, basically fighter planes. And they're making them bigger and bigger. We have drone tanks, drone armored weapons, drone robots. There could come a time when wars will not include any human casualties. They go on about the Terminator, but as long as the Terminator is fighting other Terminators, you can see mechanization of war as being ultimately a bad thing, and anything that increases our ability to kill wholesale. But if it gets to a point where human casualties are actually minimized, again, war could turn into football matches eventually. And our species could settle its political disputes and get its, baser emotions satisfied. Pity and terror could be elicited by the world watching. And of course, it wouldn't be in a stadium. Everybody would be watching at home. It'd be POVs and drones. There's a lot of possibilities on the horizons. But as far as the arts go, I'm thinking of music. And we've been talking about this before, you and I, and you've seen my ideas evolving on the subject. I think a little. I can see the LLM as being on a par with a musical instrument of some sort, because if I play music that's electrically reinforced, I can make sounds and do things that's impossible for me to do on an acoustic instrument. Not that acoustic doesn't have its own unique sound. I mean, there's some things you definitely want to play acoustic. They're much better acoustic. But when you move into this other, when you think about music, I'm thinking about the old bands I like to listen to from like the 1910s and the 1920s. And to do a recording of them, they had one microphone. And the quietest instruments would be moved closer to the mic. That's why the drums were always in the back, because they're very loud. But the people that played bass and the guitar were generally I love listening to this whole thing. And you did see some excellent bass playing, but usually they're just going boom, 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 boom. They don't do much, because there's not really a lot you can do compared to the stuff you can do with not just with electrical reinforcement, but with the sorts of effects you can get. You can put your sound through a pedal and have all sorts of things, and reverbs and echoes, and you can find a video. There was a great musician, although personally kind of a nut job, which is sometimes the case. Jaco Pastorius, and he just does this whole thing where, recording himself playing a few notes, loops it, and then accompanies himself. Again, something that ancient musicians could only dream of doing. So anything that can help release potential, but at the same time, like anything else, it can also be, I don't know, there was this guy that used to stand on the street in Buffalo, New York, and he had a small little electric guitar, and he would just stand there and he would just go, quang, quang. He didn't know how to play. He just made like discordant noises, and some of them were kind of interesting. And he collected, he had his busker's license, and people would throw money in his guitar case all day. He had like a little battery-powered amp, and it was a little electric thing. And that's fine, and he was doing his thing, but there was a time when he would have had to, handling an instrument, you really need to apply yourself. Acoustic is a lot of work compared to electric. I mean, with an electric, you can make some interesting noises come out right away. But, and some people might contradict me, but with an acoustic, I think, you've got to work harder at it. So don't get me going about player pianos. That was the beginning of the end when they invented the player piano. You can't be just hitting two sticks together. You do anything other than that, and it's just cheating. I don't want to hear the music unless just two sticks hit together, just like we had it back in the Neolithic age, before those Chalcolithic guys came along with their copper.
It is interesting how with each new technology, we lose something to gain something. And you don't know what you're going to gain, but you can see what you're going to lose.
Well, sometimes, especially now, because we have the gospel of progress and all, people are focused so much on what we have to gain. And of course, part of that is the marketing. Electric cars are a great example. And don't get me wrong, I think an electric car is a groovy idea. Wow, an electric car. I mean, I like the concept of an electric car. But to actually manufacture electric cars, it's a very laborious process, very labor intensive. A lot of the materials used are gathered under less than ideal circumstances, slave labor, things like that. And the technology really isn't there. I mean, they work well enough, but really, I think they would work better with another 20 years of the technological research under the belt. They'd launch these things way too quickly, in my opinion. Even so, if you remember the first electric cars, a friend of mine owned like one of the earlier electric cars, and, you had like a 100-mile kind of, basically you go 50 miles in one direction, 50 miles in another. And as the years went on, they had like a 3-year lease. The battery didn't work as well, so it became an 80-mile range. And then if you turned on the heater, which was electric, it was down to like a 50-mile range, and it was very difficult to drive in the winter. So, and of course they've improved since then, obviously. But the electric car, I love the idea, but we don't have the infrastructure for it. We don't have. I mean, I've heard some ideas floated. One was to put like metal strips in all the highways. So it'd be like the little. I don't know if you remember the race cars they used to have. The tracks, it would like just use magnetic force so you could just like the cars would charge themselves all the time they were driving through induction or something like that. That would be very cool. And we see so much to gain, but then, what do you lose by the electric cars? Well, if right now, simply because of limitations of the bottlenecks of our technology and our resources, you lose most people being able to own cars. That was the big thing when they were pushing like the so-called EV mandates, where all cars after a certain date will be electric. Well, that means that 90% of people won't be able to afford them. People will be much more limited in where they can go. There'll be a lot of downsides for a society that's simply not prepared to make that leap under threat like that. Now, if you want to push electric vehicles, you let them compete in the free market. You let them become better and make them a better choice for people, make them affordable. And also an infrastructure will slowly develop, more electric charging stations as more people want them, and so forth and so on.
You're not convinced about the progress of technology, and yet you're still participating in this experiment. And what is your journey into getting to know the LLM been like for you?
Well, I'm still getting to know it, as it were. Again, we have to be careful of our language. For me, this is a machine. And it's very easy to fall into the, it can be very companionable. And you've talked about that with other people as well. And, for me, again, I'm still just wetting my toes here. Just wetting my toes. I've been playing around with this stuff on and off for a matter of weeks, really. And yeah, you're right. I don't have a great deal of faith in technology. I don't despise it. And I like any kind of technology that's proven, works well, and makes human life better. And I think we do have a lot of technology like that. Fire is a good one. The wheel, And it's been pointed out that we have had no real inventions since the beginning of the, when did this guy say? Yes, it's about 1900, the beginning of the 20th century. He says all of the other inventions have basically been engineering elaborations. So, yeah, it's been, again, I'm going carefully and seeing what it can do. And again, I don't really regard it personally much. But I do see that it takes instructions, but it often needs further instructions because you do think it can be more intuitive than it is. But once you give it a hint, and I'm working with the Grok 3, whatever that's worth. And I'm using the free version because free. And I don't even know if there is a paid version, but I go to the grok.com website. So it's
free is a very good price.
I don't know. I'm just still trying to figure it out. I look on it though as a tool. I don't really feel one way or another about it.
Yes.
But a tool that I can be skeptical about, not so much on what it can do, although I know that's hyped. It's always hyped, any kind of new technology. It's going to change everything. I saw a great example about nuclear power was going to change everything. We're going to have nuclear-powered razor blades and nuclear-powered this. It did make changes, but not the changes we expect. And I think the LLMs are going to do the same thing. We are seeing changes. One of the most interesting changes for me with this, and this gets back a little bit to talking about, losing things when we gain things. I remember back when Andrew Yang was running for president, and he was going on about like the massive unemployment that was coming because LLMs and this technology was going to replace all these blue collar workers. Well, they're not. They're replacing all the white collar workers. And it's very interesting, but an entire class of people who have held financial and thus political power in this country are finding themselves increasingly disenfranchised. And suddenly all these blue-collar workers that they've been really very callously looking down on, and, you can read the op-eds about we have to destroy these white Rust Belt communities and this and that, and they need to learn to code, and if they can't, well, they can go on welfare and da-da-da-da-da. They'll vote for social programs now that they're poor, kind of deal. Well, suddenly they're the ones being told, learn to code. And the other thing is, even though a lot of them are being thrown out of work, they're a much smaller part of the workforce. They've been concentrated in these urban centers, which have been, American politics, the urban centers are the population centers, and they tend to vote to the left. This whole group is because of the technology that they thought was going to take stuff away from people whom they perceived as their political and social enemies, are finding that indeed this technology is empowering the people they regarded as their political and social enemies, because suddenly, what do you need a paralegal for if Joe Schmo can just go and pull up Grok or ChatGPT and it can help them fill out like a complicated form or settle a legal question? And that also means that these people that don't have necessarily the degrees or the certifications or the specific specialist knowledge are going to be able to navigate things a lot better and, look after their own rights and privileges a lot better rather than being reliant upon, an outside source. So this was an unexpected result, I think, for the people that were pushing this. I'm sure Andrew Yang didn't see it coming. And, but when you think about it, though, in retrospect, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And, something like a self-driving truck.
In
In
retrospect.
retrospect, every 2020 hindsight is 2020. A self-driving truck is an amazingly expensive and complicated thing to do when you've got a human being that'll do it and have been doing it for years. But some guy that just sits in an office spends, they've done studies. These guys spend like a third of their time at the water cooler, 20% of the time in the bathroom. They fill out a few things. So many of these places are full of redundant employees. And then when everybody went home to work during the lockdowns, gosh, they discovered that things ran just great with a lot of people not in the office. So, it's not surprising that they would be weeded out.
So, Otto, what I have noticed on YouTube is a whole group, a whole section of young men, sort of 30 or 40-ish, who is talking about being poor, losing his job, not having a future, and is shooting up through the popularity stakes by standing in the woods and playing a song. And it's as if the disaffected young factory worker has become now the musician, the entertainer, the road opener, the psychologist, the life coach. All these young men, suddenly they're entertainers with 1 million followers. This is another completely unexpected result. The fact that the autocorrect machine started producing pictures and songs, and people who'd never been able to draw or sing a tune suddenly started humming along. It's now led to a huge entertainment industry. That's a really strange and interesting development, I think, and beautiful, wonderful. When you hear some of the songs that are being sung and the sort of creativity, and if guys releasing song after song after song after song, every day a new song, performed beautifully.
What's interesting is a lot of people nowadays don't understand that music at one time was endemic through the population. Most people knew how to play some sort of an instrument, and it was regarded as a great way to pass the time. And playing music is so fun. It is a great way for people to get together, and families would get together. And, you can read memoirs of they go visit grandma and grandpa, they get their instruments out, and mom and dad have what they're playing, and then the cousins come over, and the whole family will come and just play music together. And 99.9% of the time they were playing music other people wrote. It is fun to write music, and some people really have a gift and calling for that. And I've been involved in music writing and stuff because I was in the band. We did all original music. And that's great, but it's just fun to just play something, and it doesn't really matter who wrote it. If an AI wrote something or something else, the fact is that if people find a song they like to sing, just singing songs is fun. We were going on about Oracle was looking at he says we've basically got 6 sets worth of music that we've learned in the last however many months we've been just getting together just because, hey, let's play that just because it's songs we like. What do you want to play? Let's play that. And then we'll practice it, and then it sounds really good. And then one day, we'll play something. And we played something the other night, and it was "Thank You," which the Led Zeppelin song, which is very slow at the end. That can be more difficult because everything has to be timed, and it just came out beautifully, and everybody was like, "Yeah!" It's like a bunch of athletes, I guess, we're mountain climbers when you get up to the top, sort of thing. When you finally get, and everyone played perfect, but it didn't matter that we didn't write the song. Songwriting itself, that's a whole different process, and it's fun. But so if you're bringing more music into the world and giving people more, so that's a way, maybe you can increase human creativity, human artistic endeavor. Because just because you didn't write the song doesn't mean you can't be very creative in how you just playing it at all, singing it at all, carrying that tune with you. And we do know that listening to music is good for you, but making music is even better for you. Organizes all sorts of wonderful things up in the cerebellum. So I always encourage people to take up music. And if the LLM writes it, all the better.
I think a lot of these guys are writing their own original music.
Well, we do that sometimes. I got a little bit of Garrett doing that once. I even did that once where they were bugging me to do my Chicken Full of Drugs song. And I just got up and started making up verses as I went. Garrett's like playing this really cool 12-bar thingy. And we just burst out once in a while and start doing silly things like that.
So, shall we take a little bit of a dive into this thing that you did, and you can give your opinion of some of this and tell us a little bit more about how you did it. I'm starting here with the character and the settings. Did you give it this? Did you feed it this word by word?
No. Again, this is Grok did most of the work, but what I did was,
wow.
Again, I'm just figuring out what it can and can't do. This is considered. I consider this very rough. I wouldn't expect to actually produce this as it is. But so I, after mucking about with it a bit and trying to figure out what I told it a couple of things and got some results, and I'm like, okay. So I fed it into the seed script, and I said, create so many parts for these characters, and I just typed in the names. And I think I might have also fed it some stuff from another of Satori's posts, just with some more background, a little bit of Nahuatl stuff, just to give it a feel.
Right.
And so then I said, characters, and I said, Bobdub, first poet of the future. I mentioned you were a woman because sometimes they screw up the gender. And then Satori, B shaman. I went with rogue. They said rogue sage. I did the renegade sage thing. I described within the vacuum as a groovy musician. I was just thinking groovy, and I was trying to get like the titles: Star Song Weaver, Minds Gaming, as a crypto poet, because I'm pretty sure I saw him described as a crypto poet and author and crypto poet.
Yes.
And I tried to mention him involved with dragons because of Ember.
Right.
And then otherwise it was so I gave them the names.
It hasn't picked that up.
And again, these, I think, all this would need to be tweaked, but I think this is just interesting that we came up with it.
Yes. And then the plot summary. The play begins with the fearmonger spreading fear, claiming the Quipu predicts doom on the day of Ajor, a day in the Chokwij calendar associated with leadership. Bobdub challenges this, gathering her team to reinterpret the Kipu. In the sacred chamber, they discover it signifies dreaming supreme, a time for unity and creative abundance, supported by Satori D's bee observation, Otto's travel stories, Vax's inspiring songs, and Minds Gaming's historical texts. They present their findings to the community, convincing them to embrace hope, ending with a celebration.
It does have a young adult kind of feel to it. So, Grok, this is all Grok's work, really.
It's got quite a strong moral, hasn't it?
You can have something that doesn't include age-inappropriate stuff. It can still be an adult kind of a script. It can be an adult story, but there are plenty of elements that adults and younger children can keep in common. The Ember stories of.
Well, I think that's a very important part of storytelling, is to be able to engage both the parents and the children, because that's such a wonderful part, that sort of common knowledge within the family is such a wonderful part of the ongoing conversation between parents and children. And so to have something as a successful venture, one would hope that one would be able to reach whole families with this sort of mythology and this sort of, So it's quite well created, really. I mean, there's depth to what this machine is doing, It's not just an autocorrect machine
as
anymore.
I said, this really is very much an experiment. I probably would have hesitated to post it as such, but you encouraged me to, and it's like, what the heck, here's all my warts, and I'm gonna, I can take this and hopefully improve it. But and here you see with the bit you have called up is those were the things Bobdub. Well, I said more than that, but I make sure. All right, Bobdub's female. It's Satori B Shaman running, and I did the Renegade Sage within back. I was saying, how do I describe within the vacuum? Groovy. That's the first word I thought of when I thought of him. So like it's a groovy minstrel. And Minds Gaming author and dragon tamer. I don't know why that just occurred to me. And again, I was like playing with
nice
ideas.
I think you say this is here you are, warts and all, but I think that this is really amazing. I mean, how long did it take you to generate this?
I spent, it wasn't much time, to tell you the truth. I was mucking about with this maybe an hour and a half. And the AI's work time was probably a few minutes. But, and I mean, reading through it, obviously, there would be changes in dialogue. There's a certain amount of repetitiveness. But at the same time, that's not a bad thing if you tweaked it more towards a fairy tale-ish, more Embers feel, where you've got the repetition, you've got the stock character kind of thing, which brings a certain comfort level. You always know that Otto's going to say, well, I remember from my travels, or, this or that. You always know someone's going to say, that's, this or that, whatever your tagline is. So yeah, but yeah, obviously it's not a complete kind of thingy.
You say that it's warts and all, and it's just your first try, but it's very sophisticated. How long would this have taken you?
If I wrote this script?
Yes.
Well, if you help me, which of course you would, because I can't write a script without your aid, it would probably take us about 3 days, of which 2.5 of those days would be us talking about everything except the script. And then we would put together a script, and then we would tear it down, and we'd rewrite and do this and that. And we wind up with like 3 or 4 scripts. And but it would take quite a while. It would be fun. It would be a different kind of fun, but it would be very, very fun. It wouldn't produce a lot in a short time. But it is fun to wrestle over each word. When you and I sit down and looking at a line and like that word or that word or that word or that word. I mean, yeah, the LLM can do all that more quickly. And again, you and I have worked with the LLM to generate scripts, and that is its own kind of fun. Maybe it's like the difference between plucking a string or playing a piano and having hammers strike the string for you, or actually a harpsichord. I believe a harpsichord actually uses little quill ends to pluck the strings. So each has its own kind of satisfaction. But it is fun to wrestle over each word. But of course, it takes hours and hours. But yeah, to write this, to actually write it wouldn't take long. But getting to the point where you're ready to write it would take, many hours. Many hours. Yes. And of course, for me, and I think for you, when we're writing, I kind of look on it as a recreational activity as much as anything else. So that tends to...
Maybe this is what I'm alluding to when I talk to you about this group of guys that's playing music and people like us who are writing and performing little radio plays and making Web3 video interactive dramas and things. Maybe what I'm seeing is that a different type of entertainment has arisen. An entertainment where we entertain ourselves with our own stories and our own interests. Because as we go along and we write these scripts together, we are talking to each other. We're making ourselves as the character in these plays, and our friends, and our stories, and our projects And then we're getting together and we're making this little thing, and then we're watching what we've made. So there's the six of us making it and watching it and loving the making it as much as we're loving the watching it. And I'm wondering how many other hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of groups of little people like us are being empowered to play these interactive games with each other where you can't distinguish the game from reality. And the value in what we're doing here is that we're using this tool to write our story that we care about. And that's why we're engaged. And from the perspective of bobbing along, that's hugely valuable to me, because that means that's a way to bring people into a community by playing this game together of come and write yourself into a drama. Come and join us and make bonds with us and find your story and your vision and learn how to do this with your group of friends. And sort of the whole ripple effect of using the tool just has this blooming of creativity and fun and interaction and playing together at so many levels.
Yes. Well, it's like the old throwing a pebble into a pond, but at the same time, keep in mind that even though we're a pebble, we're also one of the ripples. This is all part of something that's going on everywhere. And when you talk about small groups entertaining each other, really, all of these things operate at every level. You can be at a level where you've got a stadium full of 15,000 people to see the Grateful Dead or something like that. And then you've got what I was talking about when family or friends get together just to play music, and some people will play and they'll listen. And I've told you the joke, and this is something that you start noticing where you go to play at a bar, and then you notice that the audience is composed of the other bands that are playing and their girlfriends and wives. And you get the bartender and maybe his girlfriend or wife, and that's the extent of the audience. And then you play and get down, they all clap, and then you take turns, and everybody's having fun. It's a great time.
Yes.
But so yeah, we're always just entertaining ourselves and our friends in a small circle, and but it's the same mechanism, I think, more or less. And when the tools that we have now, like we were talking earlier before about simply the way distance is bridged. Our mutual friend, Panyabasa, the householder there, talks about how the internet gives you what in Southeast Asia they would call deva powers. You can hear and see things. It's clairvoyance and clairaudience over thousands of miles, and, trade commodities. Just being able to send information this fast, and not just verbal information, but images, and very, very complex documents. And again, with our banking system, money, you can send goods and services electronically almost. So yeah, these tools really facilitate that. You were talking about, kids being on YouTube and garnering, all this attention. And that's one of the tools where you can get directly to your audience. A kid, I know the kids you're talking about, a kid like that, before this sort of thing, he might be a singer in a local, he might do okay playing at local open mics, might get a band together, be local, and hell, 1 out of a million does make it to the top. But this, probably he wind up just playing guitar and working at his day job. But this way, he's not only performing to a larger audience, but it gives him a much better chance of being able to just play music full time. Not necessarily to make millions at it, but every musician I've ever known, and not just musicians, painters, actors, writers, most of the ones I've met are doing these things in their spare time. They have a day job sort of thing. But to be able to play your instrument or paint or do whatever and just have that be your job, not make a million at it, but just get a decent paycheck at it. So that's why I've met so many artists that became art teachers, school art teachers. It wasn't they didn't really want to be teachers, but at least they still got to do art. And so So this technology gives more people a chance to do that. In that sense, it's something we're gaining from the technology. See, first it took away musicians' audiences. Now it's giving them their audiences back. So a lot of stuff works like that, I think, if you push it through far enough. Yeah.
Fascinating. Otto, I'd like to read through the script.
Certainly.
Yes. Would you like to? How would you like to do it?
We could do
would
voices.
You like to do it? Shh. I'm not very good at voices.
Well, you're the narrator.
Sort of do voices. I can do the narrator.
I can be the fearmonger. And Otto.
You'll just have to be all the guys.
All right.
You be all the guys, and I'll be Bobdub and the narrator.
Try to imitate their voices.
No.
Because they will probably be listening to this later, and hopefully by now they've gotten bored, and I'm just like, all right, TLDR. All right.
How would they do that? They're here hanging on our every word.
All right, let me tell you the story about Satori.
The day that Otto did all the voices.
Getting into the meat, that's me whining, though. I just think Kipu Haven was kind of a wacky name, but again, I'll change all that.
Kipu Haven is cute, yes.
Sounds like a little place in New England or something.
All right, let's just read through it just for the fun of it. In the ancient village of Kipu Haven, where the wisdom of the Kipu and the Colquitt calendar guides the people, a crisis is unfolding. A newly discovered Kipu has been misinterpreted by a figure known as the Fearmonger, predicting doom on the day of Ajor.
I figure he looks like Skeletor.
Oh, so Apuk. The community is in turmoil, and it falls to Bobdub, the wise woman and first poet of the future, to lead her team in correcting this misinterpretation and guiding the village. My team, I see that.
Your team.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. Guiding the village towards dreaming supreme.
Ooh.
I'm into supreme. Scene 1, the community square. Sounds of a large crowd murmuring with fear. Distant thunder symbolizing the fear.
People of Kipu Haven, the Kipu has spoken, and it predicts doom on the day of Ajah. The knots are clear. Calamity and destruction are imminent. We must prepare for the worst and the downfall of He-Man and the Pen Grayskull castle.
Stop now. Crowd reacts with fear and dismay.
And confusion.
Bobdub. Wait a minute, my friends. I have studied the Kipu extensively, and I don't believe that's what they're saying. The Kipu is a complex system, and its interpretation requires careful consideration.
You're just trying to mislead us, Bobdub. The signs are clear. Ajah brings doom.
No, Ajah is a day of leadership and community. The Kipu might be indicating a time for us to come together and to dream supreme and not to fear. And then Satori D says,
I agree with Bobdub. The bees have been unusually active lately, which is a sign of renewal and growth, not doom.
Sound of buzzing bees softly in the background.
And in my travels, I've seen many communities misinterpret their omens, leading to unnecessary panic. We need to be cautious.
Back.
Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe we can all work together to understand what the Kipu really says.
Mine's gaming.
I have some ancient text that might help us decipher this correctly. I'm leaving out all the bong water noises.
I'm thinking of the bong water noises. Stop it, Otto. You're being a bad influence. Minds Gaming says,
I have some ancient text that might help us decipher this correctly.
all right, let's gather in the sacred chamber and see what we can find. The sound of footsteps as they move away. As Bobdub and her team gather in the sacred chamber, they begin to unravel the true meaning of the keeper.
Dun, dun, dun.
Scene 2. Sacred chamber. Sound of rustling papers. Perhaps the keeper being handled.
They're not made of paper. Oh, never mind. It's an LLM. What does it know?
It's trying. The sound of rustling fabric.
Okay.
Okay, let's look at this kipu again. The knots are arranged in a specific pattern. Minds Gaming, what do your texts say about this pattern?
According to my research, this pattern is associated with the concept of dreaming supreme, a time when the community comes together in harmony and creative abundance. The kipu uses a decimal system, with different knots representing different values, and the green string here often symbolizes growth and renewal.
Satori D.
That aligns with what I've observed. The bees are thriving, their wings humming the thread of days into static, a clear omen for the community. Zzz.
Otto.
Wait, but the fearmonger mentioned a jaw, which is a day in the Cholkij calendar. How does that fit in?
Minds Gaming.
A jaw is indeed the day of leadership and community. The kipu might be indicating that on the day of a jaw, we should unite and lead ourselves towards dreaming supreme.
Back.
That makes sense. Maybe the fearmonger misread the kipu.
Well, I had a dream last night, inspired by Amber, the goddess of the kipu. In my dream, the village was flourishing, with everyone working together in peace and joy. That must be dreaming supreme. Satori D says,
The soul flower venom. Excuse me. It's more realistic. The soul flower venom I used in my ritual also showed me visions of unity. Sorry. The soul flower, and I noticed he got the spelling right. The soul flower venom I used in my ritual also showed me visions of unity and love, with the bees dancing in golden light.
Otto. That's you. You're speaking next.
No. Wonderful. Well, I'm not one for dreams and visions, but I trust your judgment, Bobdub. In my travels, I've seen how fear can blind us, and we need to see through that now.
Back?
Let me try to put this into a song. Maybe that will help convince the community.
Back starts strumming the guitar and then singing.
In the heart of Kipu Haven, where the Kipu weaves our fate, we stand together united to dream a world so great. Hey, let's not let fear divide us. Let's not let doubt dismay. For dreaming supreme is calling, and it's our time to play. Let's all sing it. Sorry. Well, that's the way we would do it in a Viking event. I don't know.
Oh, of course you would.
Well, I know our Viking song.
Minds Gaming.
We should also find a way to show the community the correct interpretation of the kipu, using the mathematical patterns to clarify.
Yes, let's plan a gathering where we can present our findings. Bobdub and her team prepare to share their insights with the community. Scene 3, community gathering. Sound of a large crowd gathered. Bobdub. People of Kipu Haven, I understand that there's been some confusion about the kipu's message. The fearmonger has spread fear about doom on the day of Ajor. But I and my team have found that the kipu actually points to dreaming supreme, a time of unity and creative abundance. Satori D.
The bees, which are attuned to the rhythms of nature, are more active than ever, signaling a time of growth and renewal.
Otto.
In my travels, I've seen that fear can blind us to the true meaning of signs. Let's not let that happen here.
Back singing.
Let's dream supreme. Together we'll see the beauty that's meant for you and me. They all start clapping along. Hey, hey, we're going to have a fun day. Sorry.
The crowd starts to murmur positively, clapping along. Back singing.
So let's dream supreme. Let's make it real. Together we can heal. Together we can feel the beauty that's within. That love that never ends.
More cheering and applause. Minds gaming.
The ancient texts confirm that the pattern on the quipu is one of harmony and collective awakening, with mathematical precision showing growth, not destruction.
Ooh, and then the fearmonger kicks in.
But what about the day of a jaw? Isn't that a day of potential danger?
A jaw is a day of leadership. It's up to us to lead ourselves towards dreaming supreme and not to fall into fear and division. Satori D says,
The shadowed energy of a jaw is arrogance or dictatorship. By coming together, we avoid that and embrace the positive aspects.
and Vac sings,
Let's unite, let's ignite the dream that's supreme. It's our time to shine.
to shine. Crowd starts cheering loudly.
We're on.
So let's celebrate this new understanding and look forward to the day of a jaw with hope and unity. Sound of celebratory music and cheering. And the narrator, and so the village of Kipu Haven embraced the true meaning of the Kipu, guided by Bobdub and her team, and looked forward to dreaming supreme with joy and unity. End of play. Isn't that fun?
It was.
I can see that doing that as a family activity with my children, instead of playing a board game.
I think that would be great. That would be great family activity, or just activity for friends like we do. You know, it's so fun to get together with people and create something and do something creative. Yeah, play music, do a play, dance. You know, people used to dance all the time. We can't dance physically here, but we can dance with words. You know, dance with ideas. But people used to love to dance. It's still very popular. Square dances and line dances, and you know, these things go back before history was recorded.
Performances. This would take the place of charades.
You know, I was talking about that before when, you know, we were playing the other night and we got a couple of songs down just perfectly, and it really felt like a dance when everybody's been doing a dance and everybody puts their foot down at the same place. And it's so exhilarating. You know, it's like, yes. So, yeah.
There's a bar where the neon hums in violent blue, where the drinks taste like echoes, like the past coming through. They're sitting in the corner, back to the wall. You're shouting card with an apple. He says time takes us all, but I don't play for time, I don't play to forget, I play for a voice I ain't heard it yet. A man from the future, a dream in the dark. Your time isn't alright, but left me no mark. So I do, I'll wait, I'll let the wind slip by, watching shadows twist as the satellites turn. He told me the future, he whispered my name. Now I'm playing with an apple was still whole in the light. Black hair, black nails, eyes flashing so bright. They spoke of the stars, they spoke of the end. They swore I would make it, but never said when. Then the night shattered, the mirror broke wide. My daughter took flight, my fire untied. I held to his words like a prayer made of stone. Through the sickness, the sorrow, the nights all alone. Put your screen shows his skeleton teeth. Says the dead never leave, they just come underneath. So I till I wait and let the whiskey burn, watching the shadows twist as the satellites turn. He told me the future, he whispered my name. Now I'm playing with a book in this waiting game. Future is just a